What's up, guys? I'm going to talk about this today. This right here is Xanax. This is a Xanax bar. I am prescribed Xanax. And this is what happens when you snort Xanax. And for everyone out there who says, well, you can't snort Xanax, it's not water soluble, it doesn't do anything to you. Let me science you a little bit. If you're new to my channel, hit the like and subscribe button. My name is Eric. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a counselor, I'm not a therapist. I am a recovering cocaine and alcoholic addict. I am diagnosed with ADHD, PTSD, GAD, and MDD. Those are my diagnoses. I see a therapist. I have self-harmed before. I lost a wife and a father to suicide. I almost lost my life to suicide. I love to share everything that I can to make sure that nobody in life goes it alone. And I wanted to share about this drug right here, which is Xanax. This is a Xanax bar. My cat is going to demonstrate it for you. Actually, I'm just joking. And why people actually snort this drug, the dangers behind it. If you are struggling with any kind of addiction, Xanax is an addictive drug. It is something that I am prescribed. It is for my general anxiety disorder that I am prescribed this. Down below is a link to NA. Get help. Reach out. As a recovering addict from alcohol and cocaine, I know the fight and the battle that you're going through. So Xanax here. Why do people snort Xanax? So if you didn't know, Xanax is not water soluble. So what that means is Xanax doesn't necessarily dissolve or break down at all in water. Now it is alcohol soluble. What that means is that's why it's so dangerous and deadly if you mix Xanax with alcohol. Cardiac arrest is very, very common actually. It is one of the dangerous combinations that you can actually do with Xanax. Xanax itself though, putting this in water doesn't do anything. It doesn't really break down. But when you do snort it, it does actually affect you differently. And here's how. When you crush and snort Xanax, you're going to break this pill into very, very fine powder. Now, that fine powder itself, when you take a medication like this, is designed to release itself as your stomach breaks it down. It slowly lets it into your system. When I'm going through an anxiety attack and I take Xanax, it's like a warm blanket that's been pulled over me. A lot of the emotions, the massive confusion, stress, the doom, the fear, the uncontrollable in my head leaves. It feels like when I'm going through an anxiety attack, I have ants under my skin. All of that goes away. Now, if you break this down into a powder form though, and you snort it, one, you do risk damaging your nasal cavity. I was somebody who loved to put stuff up my nose, especially when I was in active addiction. That was when anything and everything I'd put up my nose. And I had snorted Xanax before. Also had snorted Adderall before. A lot of cocaine before. When you break this up into a fine powder form though, and you snort it, snorting it essentially isn't going to do anything different for you. But what happens is that powder actually will collect in your mucus and it will run down your throat and into your stomach. Now this fine powder is going to hit your system a lot quicker than your body breaking down a pill. So this right here, this Xanax bar, essentially if I broke this into a powder and I snorted it, this whole bar is hitting my system immediately instead of it slowly dissolving in my stomach and breaking down. That's one of the dangers of actually snorting Xanax is it does hit your system a lot harder and a lot faster because of how it's actually in a powder form. It hits your mucus, goes into your stomach, and your system absorbs it now a lot quicker than what it ever would have before as a pill. Now, it has nothing to do with it hitting into your lungs or anything like how cocaine does. Now, any of the excess powder that gets stuck into your nasal cavity can cause nasal damage. It will cause damage to, inflammation. All sorts of different things can end up happening from it. That's why this drug was never designed to be snorted. Unfortunately, when it comes to active addiction, we will find ways to use any drug we can to get us higher, quicker, faster than ever before. That's one of the most dangerous things about being an addict. Being an addict was the worst experience of my life. I wish it upon nobody. And again, if you're out there struggling, down below in the description box, I do have a link to NA and AA. Snorting Xanax, though, is actually extremely common. One of the things that you also have to be worried about when you are snorting Xanax or you're even using Xanax as a drug itself is that it's prescription Xanax. When I get my prescription Xanax, I take my Xanax as directed, and I know that it's not mixed. What I mean by that is you can go into Amazon and buy a pill press. Xanax, if you buy it through third parties, I guess you could say, and not through your pharmacist, not with a prescription, you run the risk of this actually being laced or mixed with fentanyl. Now, fentanyl is an opiate. Xanax is a benzo. You're mixing two different types of drugs. Why do they mix it with fentanyl? Well, fentanyl is a very, very powerful opiate that you need very little in your system and it will affect your body. So when you are actually snorting it, one of the dangers that can happen is if you're at a party and people say, hey, we're snorting Xanax, you don't know if it's a prescription Xanax or if it's Xanax mixed with fentanyl. And now, of course, drug dealers, they're not chemists. They don't know how to properly mix and cut things. So you do run the risk of a fentanyl overdose. Again, addiction is one of the most difficult battles that you're ever going to fight, especially when it comes to benzos like Xanax. Xanax itself is very highly addictive, and your body can become dependent on it to the point that you need to actually get with a doctor, get additional help to taper off of Xanax. Now, when you are prescribed Xanax, you're doing it trial and error through your doctor. A lot of it comes down to how you communicate with your doctor, how it's affecting your body, how's it working with your body. And for example, with me, this is my emergency toolkit. I don't take Xanax on a daily basis. I might take maybe 2 milligrams of Xanax a month. It's actually decreased a lot here recently, which has been a good thing, because my goal is to not take Xanax. I don't want to take Xanax. When I take Xanax, I actually take a quarter bar of Xanax. I don't take a whole bar. When you're snorting it, though, you're taking essentially a whole bar. It's hitting your system quickly, and that's why you'll see people, if they're high on Xanax, they're usually very slurred with their speech. You'll also notice that they're just not fully there because, let's face it, Xanax is numbing and taking over your whole body. You're essentially extremely high, and you run the risk, especially if you're an alcoholic and you start mixing alcohol with that, of running into cardiac arrest and having a heart attack and passing. And it's one of the saddest and hardest things that I can say as an addict is to go to somebody's funeral who has relapsed and they end up mixing a deadly combination of these medications. So if you are struggling out there, again, please, I can't stress it enough to communicate with your doctor, to tell your doctor of how it's affecting you and what's happening. And if you are snorting Xanax, again, down below is a link to NA and AA. So Xanax alone, for everybody out there, yes, it is not water soluble. It's not going to break down and dissolve necessarily into water. Alcohol, though, it will. But when you do snort it, it does give you a different effect than taking it as the medication's designed to take, is actually taking the pill and following it up with some water. Again, not my proudest moments when I've snorted Xanax. I don't even remember a whole lot of the experiences because when I was in active addiction, I didn't care. As an addict, you don't care when mixing drugs because you don't really, in a sense, expect to make it to the next day. Life is something that you constantly think is going to end at any time. That's one of the biggest dangerous things about being an addict. And for anybody out there struggling, again, my heart goes out to you. Reach out for help. I've been there before. And hitting rock bottom isn't a fun place. We lose so much to addiction. We lose ourselves to addiction. That it's just, I look back and I go, it's not worth it. Did I learn a lot from it? Did I grow a lot as a human being from it? I did. But I wouldn't wish that experience on anybody. So if you are out there struggling, reach out for help. One of my suggestions to anybody out there that's an addict, if you're trying to get sober, first thing you do is you tell everybody in your life that you're an addict and here's what you're addicted to and that you need help. It's not a sign of weakness. That's the strongest thing an addict can do, is ask for help. So don't be afraid to ask for help. Ask for help because you do matter. So snorting Xanax, why do people snort Xanax? To get higher, faster, quicker, sooner. That's what it comes down to. And as an addict, there is no slowing down. It's only fast and faster to fastest. And all we're getting faster to is a gravestone. So hopefully to anybody out there struggling, we get sobriety, we find it, we hold on to it, and we start making life beautiful again. I believe in you. And you know what? You're an amazing human being. If you're new to my channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Comment down below. I'd love to hear your comments on this. I'd love to hear your experiences on this, or even seeing addicts who reach out and let people know that it does get better. If you hit the description box, in the description box, I have links to all my different social medias. I have links to the mental health Discord communities for free peer-to-peer support. I have links down below to things on Amazon like fidget cubes, fidget spinners, things that I use to help me through everyday life when it comes to my anxiety, when it comes to my depression. Even have a link down below to BetterHelp, because it's trial and error to find out what works for you. And what works for me may not work for you, but when it comes to therapy, it's about never giving up and finding the right therapist and getting the right connection. So hit that like and subscribe button, comment down below, and let's do this together.